Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
how's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today, I'm going to be doing an advanced look at the Marvel Masterworks, the Fantastic Four Volume 1. This is part of the Remasterworks program. So this is the second volume following the Amazing Spider-Man. So, join me. Now, before getting started, I do want to thank David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this Remasterwork. This book is due out in the direct market and book market on July 11th or 12th, depending on where you get your books. So, even though this kicked off the Marvel era of comics, it is Volume 2, and it's always been Volume 2 because the way they're doing the reprints are the way they were originally released in the late 80s. So, I don't have the previous printing, and oh my gosh, my Masterworks, I think, have been gone for way over 10 years. But I am going to compare it to the latest printing of the omnibus, which they were using the masters from the latest Masterworks printing, so the one before this one, to see what kind of differences there are. But again, there's going to be a standard edition cover, this one here, and a direct market cover on the left-hand side there. And that one is limited, just like they've always been limited in the past. And only available at places like cheapgraphicnovels.com or waltzcomicshop.com and Organic Price Books, In Stock Trades, DCBS, Tales of Wonder, Dime Breed Collectors, Reads Comics, Comics Bugle, places like that. So let's take a closer look at this one here. You still have this frame right here with all the Marvel characters around it that you can see better when you're holding it up against the light. There we go. Like that. And of course, the famous issue number 1, Marvel Masterworks, the Fantastic Four Volume 1. Even though it's a Remasterworks, they don't call it that. It's still Marvel Masterworks. And then Fantastic Four numbers 1 through 10, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And then the spine right here, Marvel Masterworks logo, the Fantastic Four Volume 1. And then all the covers of the issues collected in here. The ISBN down there, retail price being $75, and the Marvel logo. And even the back has that frame around it. There we go. Let's get a better look at that. Underneath the dust jacket, let's look at the flaps first. Flaps, I think, are a lot different than the latest printing of this book that came out a few years back. You have this quick little tidbit about the Fantastic Four and other Marvel Masterworks. And you get the same treatment that you have before. You have this faux leather feel to it, the embossed lettering right there, the Fantastic Four in silver, Marvel, Fantastic Four, and 1, and then nothing on the back. So we're going to crack this book open. Like I said, compare it here in a little bit. I don't know how much into detail I'm going to go about the stories in here because I'm pretty sure most people know about them. But just in case, maybe I will. I don't know. Minor spoilers for books that came out in 1961. But yes, let's take a closer look together at the world's greatest comic magazine. Okay, let's crack it open. You have this marble-like finish to the end sheets here. I've always loved that. They did this for the first few printings of the Omnis as well. The Fantastic Four, Volume 1, Collecting Fantastic Four 1 through 10, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Here's all the credits, including the inkers and letters. And unfortunately, back then, no matter who the publisher was, the colorists were going uncredited. Sometimes it was the artist, but sometimes it was somebody else, and they just went uncredited. So I'm glad that we have things like this to always remember some of the wonderful folks that put this together. And otherwise, it's going to get lost through time like this right here. So here's all of those people during this particular time, and then the color and art reconstruction right here, and then special thanks. So this is the latest printing. These books have been out before. Like I said, these came out in 1987. This is volume 2 of the Marvel Masterworks, but volume 1 of the Fantastic Four. The next one up will be X-Men. Here's your table of contents, when each of the issues came out, and what page you're going to find it. And this one printed at the Donley printer before I go on and talk about the build of the book. Introduction by Stan Lee from the very first printing in 1987. And not a lot has changed, even if you read some of the later Stan Lee's introductions, talking about the first family and how there really wasn't a lot of comics like this back then. We had superhero comics, but what this did was introduce the whole human element to these comics. That not everybody's perfect, not everybody's a chiseled god. These people have flaws. And oh my gosh, they do. My kids reviewed the Mighty Marvel Masterworks Volume 1 and they pointed something out. I got on a lot of people's nerves when they read these, and when you go back and read these for the first time, you may agree. So it kicks it off with Fantastic Four #1, the very first, or the kickoff to the Marvel Age of Comics. You know, some people consider it the Silver Age, the beginning of the Silver Age, but then again, Flash of Two Worlds probably considered the Silver Age, but this definitely began the Marvel Age of Comics, because before this, it was romance, it was Western comics, it was monster comics, and then they came in with their superhero comics. A lot of it has to do with the sales of the Justice League and the same publisher wanting that owned both DC and Marvel wanting to compete, wanted Stan Lee to write something with superheroes instead of just monsters. So he came up with the concept of throwing in a bunch of sci-fi and throwing in some monster stuff, and you can tell within the first few issues that there were those elements there that they were still pushing for, such as that big monster right there taking the spotlight from the Fantastic Four. But here you get to meet Ben Grimm, you get to meet Reed Richards, you get to meet Sue Storm and her brother Johnny Storm. And in a series of flashbacks, you get to see how they end up getting their powers and how they confront their very first supervillain, Mole Man, who also has some really interesting character traits about him. And you know that he's not a one-dimensional villain to begin with. And over here you're going to see the beginning of the Skrulls, so if you're a fan of that Kree-Skrull War, this is where it took place. And the Skrulls look a little bit more eye-buggy. The art is a little bit different than probably what you're used to. The thing's a little muddier than the Rock thing, and that takes a little bit. They don't even have costumes until about the third issue. The ending of this one with the shape-changing Skrulls, wow, that's a pretty messed up way to do it. There is this is Mr. Miracle right here, and again more giant monsters. Issue #4 gives us the reintroduction of a Golden Age character. And it's all due to Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm finding this homeless guy, this bearded homeless guy, and saying, hey, this guy looks a lot like Namor. And it's interesting because, yeah, they read comics through here from the Marvel Golden Age. But yes, they shave him and they're like, oh my gosh, it's Namor, the Submariner. And of course, he becomes this villain at first, but then later on, of course, this anti-hero. Issue #5 giving us Doctor Doom, but it's a different type of Doctor Doom than what a lot of people think when they think of Doctor Doom and his complexity. He's very one-dimensional. He does have ties to Reed Richards, but he doesn't go into details about his mother's soul or his background. That doesn't come until later. There's time travel elements in here, so there's a lot of sci-fi and monster stuff in here, and I just said I wasn't going to go too much in depth, but I can't help it when I'm talking about something this classic. There's the first super villain team up here between Doctor Doom and Namor. They team up together against the Fantastic Four. And this right here is Kurgo, the master of Planet X. Now he has come here to try to take over the world, and the Fantastic Four have to go and team up and form an alliance with other alien creatures. This right here is one of the creepiest stories. See, by now, they have their costumes. Ben's looking a little more rockier. But one of the creepiest stories because we are introduced to the Puppet Master. And the way that Jack Kirby drew the Puppet Master himself, it almost feels like he is a giant puppet. And it's always creeped me out. We also meet his daughter, Alicia Masters, who, of course, ends up falling in love with our favorite blue-eyed thing. Issue #9 shows the return of Namor, but I think also sneaking in here are Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, if I'm not mistaken, in this particular issue. They started putting themselves into the comics. And then issue number 10, The Return of Doctor Doom. This time, why is Mr. Fantastic looking so menacing? Well, maybe it was an old switcheroo. Now, let's look at the extras here in the back. There's pinups, like the pinups are always in the back of the issues. There is the introduction here by Tom DeFalco from Fantastic First, the introduction from the Origins of Marvel Comics from 1974 by Stan Lee. There's a 4-page introduction. Believe when I had my Masterworks, I don't know what printing I had, but I think that was still in here. But there's some new things that are added in here that have never been added to the Fantastic Four Masterworks. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip through here. There is this Mark Evanier from Maximum Fantastic Four that came out in 2005. This is the other introduction by Walter Mosley right here from 2005. So lots of introductions. Paul Gamchini. And this is from the first omnibus and Roy Thomas's introduction from the very first omnibus. I don't think those have been collected in the Marvel Masterworks before. Original production artwork right here for issues number 1 and 2. The unused cover to issue number 3. And house ads, original art. I do love the fact that, like, through these pages, like issue number, I think it was issue number 3 or 4, the very bottom it says the Hulk is coming. Who is the Hulk? Original art. Whoever's so lucky enough to own these original pieces by Jack Kirby and Dick Ayers. And then some reprints right here of the Fantastic Four issues, including the Marvel Masterworks, the press poster right there from Alex Ross. And for the trade paperbacks, I remember they did this. They did a colored version of whatever the cover they use for the Marvel Masterworks. But for the trade paperbacks, I thought that was really cool. I was a fan of these. I know some people didn't like them because they're purists and love the old school covers. But this is still Jack Kirby and then Dean White doing the particular colors there. This is from the Essential Fantastic Four, which I don't think I ever got those because I had the Marvel Masterworks. The Fantastic First, and then the Mighty Marvel Masterworks, which came out in 2021. So you have that cover and the 1961 omnibus there. And the biographies being mainly on Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and other Marvel Masterworks. This book has 288 pages. Again, it's printed at the Donnelly printer, but just to rest people assured, it is sewn binding. Don't really need much of an eye when you have 288 pages. Because it just lays over really nice, and there weren't really that many spread pages. Okay, let's do a quick comparison here to the latest printing of the omnibus, which uses the latest scans from the Marvel Masterworks. This one here, I believe, is printed at the Donnelly printer as well, the latest printing of this. So, probably not going to notice a lot of big differences. They're going to be subtle, but let me just do this. Let's look at the cover really quick. So, much like the Spider-Man volume, the colors are a little bit lighter here. They're a little bit darker over here. That could be to the paper stock, the Donnelly printer over here using thinner paper than they're using for the Marvel Masterworks. It's a thicker, glossy paper, same printer. But, the colors are just a little bit lighter than over here. See if that's true for the internal art. And yeah, it is. Colors are just a little bit lighter. The lines are a little bit more defined too, just a little bit. Like I can tell in Sue's eyes and her hair, they're a little bit more defined. And even though this is bigger, you can see a little bit more of her eye right there. Same with Johnny. Like I said, it's just minor differences like that people are going to notice. But a lot of work goes into the restoration of this art. And I've always compared it, and I still will to this day, to going from Blu-ray to 4K. The jump from DVD to Blu-ray, most people can tell. But the jump from Blu-ray to 4K, unless you get really close to the television, your average person and reader, and that's not an insult by saying average, just isn't going to care or isn't going to notice. But, yeah. And not that this was a bad restoration, because this is, like I said, the latest masters before this particular one. But yeah, the art's just a little more defined, a little less muddled when it comes to shadows and lines. Mainly what I'm noticing in the issue is the color. So like I said, it's just a little bit lighter. The skin tones are a little bit lighter than they are over here in the omnibus. let's compare it to another issue. Looking at issue number 2, I always crack up every time I see Johnny's face in this particular issue when they're facing the scrolls. And yeah, the lines are still a little heavy. It's a little darker. Again, it's mainly the colors, just a little bit lighter. Here we are with issue number 3. Again, color's about the only difference I see. It's a little more detailed over here than over here. Very, very small differences like that. Wanted to compare these pages here from issue number 6, the team up between Doctor Doom and Namor, because I do remember the detail, and I wanted to go back to the omnibus here. So a little darker right here, a little more muddled than they are over here. The lines are a little more defined on Namor's legs. Yeah, that's really small things like that are what the big differences are. Let's actually look at the opposite page. So I wanted to check out. Man, Kirby was just firing on all cylinders. I mean, not him alone, of course. He also had really great inkers. Okay, I wanted to come to this page right here, which introduces us to the Puppet Master and Alicia Masters, mainly because of the building right here and all of the detail on the bricks. It's like each brick got its own shadow. And yeah, just the same kind of thing I pointed out before. The lines are a little more defined than they are over here. Especially when you get a bunch of black lines together, it just kind of becomes a little bit more muddled. So let's look at one of my favorite issues, which is Reed Richards being a jerk. I swear, I think like 3 times during this particular run, or the first 10 issues, that they've kind of tricked people into believing that the Thing, Brand Grimm, can restore back to human form. And it gets taken away from him, and then you have Reed like completely crushed because he feels responsible. Okay, but enough about the story. I wanted to compare because here we have these really detailed, like, you can tell that's the Invisible Girl, and you can here too. Maybe it's the paper stock they're using, but she stands out a little bit more here than she does over there. And then I wanted to compare this little part right here with these small lines. My gosh. But that's it. This begins the Fantastic Four in Masterworks program, or format, as far as the newest printing. So in case you miss one particular volume, hopefully they'll get to it. And that's it for me. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this printing, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this particular Remasterworks. And of course the comparison to the omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if the Masterworks are the way you're going to collect these classic stories, or you love the omnibus format and you're sticking with those, or you love the epic format and you're just fine with those, and, well, maybe even the mighty Marvel Masterworks format. But I would love to know all those comments down below, and let me know if you are getting the Masterworks, which volumes you are missing that you hope they reprint one day. And everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.